I'm going to start with you, Jeff. Mormon Wives. I've sort of been obsessed with it, both as a show but as an idea, because it really did seem to sort of put some jet fuel into this genre of television. Did you realize that when you first went to Utah, that you had something special?
Thank you for asking that, Peter, and it's a pleasure to be here with you and all of your audience members here. It's great to see familiar faces. When we started Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, no, I did not know that it would break through. Our educated guests, after doing this type of programming for many decades, yeah, they've got what it takes. They're beautiful, they're outspoken, and unlike a lot of influencers, they actually can give long-form content and not just 60-second curated content, right? Yeah. There was like a decade where we were all trying to do Influencer House or this influencer. They couldn't make the leap from 60 seconds curated to an hour every week. They could not. Miraculously, now we're finding influencers who can make that leap. So I think the Mormon Wives fall into that category.
Because you said to me, when we spoke around the launch of season 3, you said that this was still a tough genre to crack.
It is. I mean, I think it's really hard to break through the clutter with unknowns, right? If you get a big celebrity like Bieber or something, and you pay all that money, are they going to deliver? Are they really going to share? And if they don't share, wow, there goes all that money and eyeballs. So it's been tough, but it's exciting to see that an unknown cast with kind of a zeitgeist through line, DNA, backbone, can still break through.
I think if any of you had Justin Bieber, I think you'd do all right with a reality show with the Beliebers, as it were.
Talk to Facebook Watch.
Yes, yeah, fair, good point. There's been a little bit of controversy in the Mormon wife universe over the last few months, and I imagine it's been rather stressful. Did you learn anything? Did anything good come out of what's happened? I know that's probably tough to think, but I wonder, did it give you a chance to take a step back and think about the show or the genre in any way, or was it just, let's get through this and hope everyone's okay?
Well, I like to think there's a positive to everything that we go through. I think the positive lessons for everyone is to remember, first and foremost, these are real people. These are not scripted characters who we can manipulate with a typewriter on a piece of paper. I'm 58. They're real people. This is really happening. There are real lives at stake. So at the very least, it reminds all of us, wow, we have to be humans and respectful and really make sure that everyone is healthy physically and mentally before we put our expectations onto them.
Rob Mills announced recently that the show will be back in production. Do you have a date yet? Do you know when you will get back into production?
We don't have a date yet. I'm very excited that we have the thumbs up from Hulu and Disney. I'm hoping it will be very soon. I'm very excited. I talked to Taylor for 90 minutes this week, and she's doing great and very grounded and composed, so I'm happy. I'm happy for her. And if you saw the live feed from Judge Minnis's courtroom yesterday, she was granted what she was seeking. So
do you think she'll be back filming with the other women?
I certainly hope so. You know, again, first and foremost, is she healthy of body and mind? Then we'll talk about it. I can tell you one thing for sure. If you did follow the live feed from the courtroom yesterday, Dakota and Taylor are now legally both required to stay 100 yards away from each other. It's a legal matter, so I can tell you definitively they will not be shooting together.
Yes. I said this to you before, but I don't think you should have the dads of dad talk in that show anyway, Jeff. So
we've gotten that message a few times.
Julie, you got slightly wrapped up in the Mormon wife world with Vanderpump Villa, but a show that sort of not the first season. You managed to get Lisa Vanderpump over to Hulu with this show, and described as the White Lotus of reality shows. What did you make of that description?
I mean, Lisa is such a pro, and she's obviously the driving force behind the show and the creative. The White Lotus piece was because we actually had, in season 2, we had guests coming out to Italy, and they got COVID, and so we couldn't shoot with them. And we had some challenge cast members that were at the Olympics, so we just called them and we're like, can you, because they were just in Paris and we were in Italy, can you come be our guests? And that basically, that moment of having the challenge cast on Vanderpump Villa sort of inspired the 3rd season, where we just leaned in and we really had all these different shows and all of the talent from the Hulu and other universes kind of join us. Yeah. And that's when Stassi was like, this is like the White Lotus. But it's loads of fun. And obviously
it seemed to give the show a boost as well.
I think so. I mean, it's the most watched season yet. Yeah. And I think that, it's always hard in a new episode to try to get your audience interested in a new group of guests that they've never met before. So having people that are familiar show up out of the gate, it certainly brings in eyeballs
Jeff
and
was
investment.
Joking about celebrities. You managed to persuade Sylvester Stallone to be in a reality series recently. How did you manage that?
I mean, he was really all in. I think he wanted to be... we joked with him because he was a reluctant reality star. Like, he had no interest, but as soon as we started filming, the team realized that he kind of couldn't stop himself from getting involved. Like, he started, directing his family and then directing our cameras and then telling our producer what to do, and it ended up really working. He was a real delight.
Another show you do, Below Deck, but I'm going to come to that because I want to talk about franchises, and,
right.
and Below Deck is clearly one of those. Stephen, talking of controversy...
I told you he would go first question.
First question. But it's, we're talking about Summer House. People are talking about Summer House. People are clearly watching Summer House. What do you make of it when, all of this is going on? Much to Jeff's point about the health of the people, I'm sure is your priority. But how do you sort of process when these real lives kind of turn up in the papers?
I think you have a responsibility to check in on the cast, make sure that they are doing okay. I think people lose a bit of perspective when they see reality stars, if you will, and it is very difficult for these people to expose their lives in real time, particularly for shows that we do for Bravo, because that whole notion of authenticity has to be there. It can't be contrived. So, we've been checking in on all of the cast, and they're all doing well, moving forward, and the reunions are going to be amazing. I mean, Andy even said, these are the most intense emotional experiences he had in years.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't like the fact that the audio of the reunion leaked, but the fact that people are interested suggests that actually people do want to watch these shows, if you can take anything positive from that, I suppose. How do you address, you're making a number of shows in the Summer House universe. You have In the City, which is launching relatively soon, which actually features two or three of these cast members. How do you approach that? Do you have to figure it out?
I kind of think it's sort of cultural anthropology. We do Next Gen NYC. They're young and sort of mischievous, and then they move to Summer House when they're in their late 20s, 30s, and then when they actually start confronting life of marriage, children, they go into In the City, and it's a kind of beautiful flow between the 3 shows.
You had to shoot something for the top of In the City, just to sort of explain the situation.
Yes, we had to do some work, and but it's gone really well.
And you told me when we last spoke, we did a piece earlier this year about sort of blowing out the Summer House franchise and spin-offs and certain things. Are you still working? I know there was an Ozarks project in the works at one point.
We're always looking for, an extension of the show. It's not simple. The bar is very high, and a lot of different elements of what makes Summer House work from a narrative point of view have got to be true in any new location. So, you know, we're going through it. We're going through it with Jenna. We're going through it with Rachel. It's, you know, we're constantly looking.
Do you think West will be in one of those spin-offs?
I can't say.
Do you agree with Jeff and Julie that it is pretty hard to, especially with a cast people don't know, to launch these shows?
Well,
or what's your take on that?
It's interesting. Atlanta is in its 17th season. And that's just a function of casting, you know, of rejuvenating the cast, of finding interesting characters that have interesting relationships to the people. And that's what we endeavor to do, to continually look for, and with all the franchises that we have.
You're always out there on the hunt, casting-wise.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have great partners in this case with Bravo in terms of, you know, understanding what the language of the network is and what they're looking for and what is going to ultimately be successful. Yeah.
Alex, you've been described to me as the talent whisperer for difficult reality stars. Is that something you accept? Is difficult reality stars your...
It depends on the day. I think my effectiveness varies.
Vanderpump Rules, as I said at the top, you know, was a show that sort of kind of helped me understand this strange city. And after the Scandival, you blew it up and started again. Talk to me about that process of you're taking a brand people know, but with people that they don't.
Well, we did a couple things simultaneously. So we considered extending Vanderpump Rules with the original cast, but we felt like there wasn't much more story to tell because the core of the group no longer existed and the story had already been told. And then we fell in love with a group of servers at the restaurant, which allowed us to then visit Vanderpump Rules anew and to kind of build out a new cast in a new era. And ultimately, I think we've all sort of made the same point that at the core of what we do is authenticity. And so we were excited by the opportunity to, again, tell a different story, but utilize the IP that obviously had a lot of equity in it.
Yeah. It takes a moment, right, for people to fall in love with these audiences. So they don't necessarily, and I'm sure the same with Mormon Wives and Summer House, it takes a second for people to get accustomed to them.
I think that's right, and I think for Vanderpump Rules, the challenge is we were compared against the nostalgia that people had for the original, and so that's difficult, and we really just wanted the new version of it to succeed in its own right.
Yeah. Vanderpump Rules itself has become a franchise in the sense that there's spin-offs. We'll come back to those because I want to talk about spin-offs. But Carlos, you have Love and Marriage, which started in Huntsville, and you have Detroit and DC. Do you share what the other panelists have said in the sense of authenticity and making sure you're always on the hunt for people for this franchise, I imagine?
Yeah, so we have Love and Marriage Huntsville, which is set in Alabama, and when I met the cast, I'm like, where's Huntsville? Because I've never heard of it. And that's when I realized that it is my duty to make sure that the world sees black people in various places outside of, like, you know, Atlanta, LA, New York. And we decided to do another show called Bell Collective that's set in Jackson, Mississippi. And that's another spinoff that we have in Birmingham, Alabama. So for me, I believe in this responsibility to make sure that I find amazing people living in these rural areas because they have stories too.
That sounds like even more of a challenge than these other guys are talking about. You're trying to find them in places you might not expect to find reality TV stars.
Yeah, because the thing is this, I feel like when it comes to people of color, we're not a monolith, we all don't live the same way, but we do have the same thing, which is universally that there's love and there's relationships, there's female friendships, right? There's couples, there's divorces, there's all the things that you see on various shows. But for me, I look at places that no one else is looking at, and I feel like that's one of the things that I do well.
Yeah. One of the things you said to me, I think we spoke a couple of years ago, that there are a lot of black reality stars, but those shows aren't necessarily made by black production companies. Can you expand on that? I'm just curious, do you think that's improving? Do you think that's getting worse? Do you think, what's your sort of take? You said that to me a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, listen, I think it's still the same. It's still what we have to face. And with me, I'm one of the few black-owned production companies that do exist. And that's why when it comes to what me and my team and my company is led by Black women, so we all find ways to make sure that the shows we produce fits what we find entertaining first and foremost, but we also make sure that we find shows that reflects our community. Because in order for me to tell the story of Black people in various places, I have to make sure that my staff looks like my cast. So that's something that I really do take a mandate when it comes to the shows we develop.
Yeah. What's the moment you know when to spin these shows off? So what's the moment with Love and Marriage where you're thinking we're going to go to Detroit and DC, and then you mentioned Bell Collective as well?
Yeah, well, look, I take pride in the fact that Oprah Winfrey still, till this day, she makes sure to have a say in what's get greenlit. And I do think a lot of people think she's hanging out with Kris Jenner, which she does. Okay. And we love that for her. She deserves all that. And I'll be in Montecito this weekend. No, I'm teasing. But the thing is, listen, I take tremendous pride in the fact that we were 4 seasons into Huntsville, and that show is the #1 show on the network. And it took her and Tina Perry to say to me, I think it's time to spin off to other cities. And we did DC, we did Detroit. And the one blessing she gave to me personally, she said, and I'll never forget this because it's my wallpaper on my laptop. She said, proceed and succeed. And that is something that in our relationship, I always try ways to do. And when Bell Collective Jackson celebrated 7th season, it was another conversation of, do you want to turn this into a spinoff? I'm like, girl, yes. And then we found talent. It took 2 years. And then Tina Perry said, we got to pitch to Oprah. And Oprah said, proceed and succeed to this one too. So again, it's something that I think once the first one hits, I think after a couple of seasons with consecutive wins is when you decide to spin them off.
Yeah. Julie, I mentioned Below Deck. So you've got the main show and 4 spin-offs, I think?
There's 4 total, yeah.
4 total. Similar question to Carlos. When do you realize, what's the moment where you're like, yeah, we need to do something a bit different, or we need to take X to Y? How do you think of that in the Below Deck universe?
I mean, I can't take any credit for it because I wasn't around when those shows spun off. But what I will say is that Bravo was very clear on their plan. And the great thing about Below Deck is like you sort of seat your captain, Captain Sandy, we have Captain Carrie, and Captain Jason. And then you bring back a couple of cast members here and there, but you're really rotating out a brand new story every season. So it really continues to work where you're kind of refreshing but also evolving. So I think that, it's a good amount of episodes, usually between like 16 and 19 per season. So you really do go on a journey story with those cast members. And again, they have guests that come in. There's real stakes. It's probably one of the most authentic shows on television because they are actually working the entire time and they're not being produced. It is very...
Suggesting Lisa Vanderpump isn't really doing that on Vanderpump Villa.
The cast on Vanderpump Villa are 100% working. They really do the job. And I think that that's really, like, you really do need to make it immersive and really level that up because you don't get authentic reactions from the cast. They're not really tired. It's very hard to go in a show where you have casts that don't want to actually participate in the activity that the show is about. And Below Deck 100% does, and it's what keeps the drama real, and so does Vanderpump Villa.
Yeah. Talking of the Vanderpumps, Alex, Vanderpump Rules sort of turned into the Valley, and then the Valley turned into the Valley Persian style, and so on and so forth. Again, what's the moment where, I guess for Vanderpump, it's when they get old and start having babies?
Yeah, I was going to say, I have a different life cycle than Stephen does, and so I think that when you come to LA and you are attractive enough and you need to earn a living, then you start at SUR and you're on Vanderpump Rules. And then I think that you may either move to the Valley, in which case you're on the Valley, or if you're Persian and you move to the Valley, well, that's a show. Or a little bit later in life, you're Real Housewife of Beverly Hills. And if things go wrong, then we put you on Botched.
Nice. Yes. You've done some shows with celebrities. You did a Denise Richards show, Kristen Cavallari, I guess, in that sense. Do you share this idea that we're moving away from that sort of celeb-focused show than the sort of civilian?
Yeah, well, I think that celeb shows have an obvious appeal and they're easy to market, but the challenge that we found, which Jeff hit, is celebrities are not always open. And so I think the audience is tired of that. And if they don't think that they're getting more from celebrities in a long-form series than they're getting from them on social media or wherever, they're just not tuning in.
Jeff, you announced a spin-off, Orange County, recently. What went into that? You had some surprising names. I didn't expect Bobby Altoff to be a Mormon wife this season.
Her brother is Mormon, and she's considering.
Were you just sort of scouting
converting.
Orange County to see who might fit in the extended Mormon universe?
It's Mormon adjacent.
It's Mormon adjacent. I'll tell you, to be honest, we're so blessed to have Hulu as a partner. They gave us a lot of leeway to explore really all of America and where are the strongest, densest populations of LDS practitioners, right? One of them happens to be Orange County, and there's a few other places in America.
Where else is big for Mormons?
You know how many people are trying to poach Mormons right now? I cannot share that valuable information, Peter. Whew.
Keeping the Mormons to himself. Keeping the Mormons to himself.
Everyone's after Mormons. But there's like 3 pockets. It's very interesting. So the people who are in the OC, in my opinion, a spinoff has to stand on its own. You can't lift it up off the fumes of its predecessor or the mothership. Are we gonna, as producers, give the audience a brand new cast, a brand new experience that's gonna surprise and delight them? Even if we didn't know about the mothership, it's still gotta stand on its own. Oh my gosh, Bobby is so funny. I really didn't get it at first. I'm like, she's so odd.
You have to watch that interview with Drake to really,
But she's really funny, and the cast is so diverse and interesting. Macy's sister is on there, and McCall, she's much more conservative than Macy, and Macy's like our most conservative member on the mothership. So it's very fascinating, and I think the through line, if we do more spin-offs, it's really a conversation that's still happening across America. What's the role of females in contemporary American society, especially where females cross paths in marriage or the workplace or financially with males, right? I would suspect that's why young ladies and men like watching it, because they're in that same debate. What does it mean? Should I stay home? Should I go to work? Should I listen to my husband and do whatever he says, even though I think he might be wrong? Do I stand up to him? And if you're LDS and you stand up to your LDS man, look what happens.
I've already said this to you, Jeff. You shouldn't be standing up to those men on your show, or you should be standing up to those men on your show. Closing us out, if Mormons were the hot commodity of the last few years, and Jeff is still fending off people from finding more Mormons, I'm curious what you think is next, where this genre might go. Carlos, I'm going to start with you. Is there certain types of cast that you're looking for, certain types of people or jobs? We used to have Men with Beards had 1,000 shows on, Pretty Wild on E! Was, The Bling Ring. Where's next for this genre?
I definitely think it's couples and co-ed friendships. I think that's the future of unscripted. I think the audience nowadays, they are driving away from just seeing female friendships, which is always going to be great and fascinating and dramatic. But I think once you go back and see who they are in their homes, with their boyfriends, their husbands, and their male friends. So I definitely think having more of a co-ed cast, to me, is the way to go.
Alex?
Yeah, I think that it comes down to the qualities of the cast themselves. So I think that there has to be something that is distinct and different and exciting and something the audience wants to see, but it also is finding that right group that has the relationships that you want to see unfold on television. I think it's less about starting from something that just seems to be external, and it's more about finding the lightning in a bottle that we all know when we see it, and then we spin off 1,000 times with any luck.
Stephen?
First, I'd like to take credit for Carlos's success. He show ran for me on Atlanta, and then he also show ran for me on the Oprah Winfrey series that I did, season 25.
Yes, Godfather.
I like that. I like the sound of that.
Oh, I know you do Stephen Weinstock.
Okay,
Yes.
Stephen, are you done taking credit for Carlos as well? Answer the question.
As far as the future, I think it's really, if somebody would have told me that we would be in season 17 of Atlanta, or 10 of Summer House, or 10 of Potomac, I would have told them, what are you smoking? I would have just thought it inconceivable. And so what it really points to is this rejuvenation of cast, people who are willing to allow us to portray their lives, to see them in their totality, And to me, the audience is very smart. They can sniff out, somebody who's projecting a persona as opposed to being authentic. And it's really hard. I mean, the pond has been very fished.
Yeah.
And finding people who are really up to the task and authentic and interesting is the big challenge for any producer.
Julie, how's your fishing?
I mean, the pond has been fished. He's not wrong. I think that what we found recently is more success looking at putting people together from completely different worlds, which really goes back to sort of how Real World started, and then putting them into, social experiments that really explore the corners of their minds, and certainly competition series too. So it's really the fish out of water within a group of people. That still is always fascinating television.
You told me Tibetan monks was one thing you were looking at. Jeff, were you joking?
I'd love to do a reality show about Tibetan monks, but I'd probably be the only person watching it. What are we fishing for? It's so interesting to see all those brilliant buyers on your previous panel, and Jenna's here, and Rachel, and Jen, and all these brilliant minds who've been doing this for decades. When I walk into their office, I want to bring them something they've never seen before. That's always my goal. You have to assume, if I'm coming in your office, yes, they're extroverted, they're verbal, they want to live their life on camera, it's fresh, it's going to break through, but I want to bring you something, what is this? Jenna had such a great experience with Bravo and Peacock, bringing them the McBee dynasty, right? Dad and 4 cowboy sons. Nobody's buying cowboy reality. What the hell is that? And I'm so grateful they saw what I saw. And I'm very grateful as well that they are a buyer who will nurture something that it's promising, it's getting there. Thank God some buyers still nurture. And I think our next season 3, is going to be the best ever. Holy Toledo.
Well,
that's my 2
they all
cents.
clearly want you to bring you that, and I hope you find it. And thank you for sharing some of your
Thanks,
tips. So
Peter.
please give it up for our
Thanks,
panel.
Peter.